We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the SloopCast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. Doing all right. Another week closer to fall camp.
How
are you doing?
How many? Do the Tom Orr thing. How many days out are we?
Well, I was wrong. So the SloopCats corrected me. We are, well, as this is being released, it'll be 54 days.
54 days on release day.
I know. Giving you guys credit. Jeez, Al. Come on, Austin.
See, it's not as funny when they turn on you, is it? Welcome to my world.
All right, Jared, what do we got today?
Today we have camp coming up. We almost talked about Northwestern. Kyle talked me out of it.
Let's talk about something else.
I just gotten pissed off. Honestly, just would have gotten pissed off. So I know. No, and Kyle knows better than I know that was a bad idea for me to partake in this early. So we're gonna stick to Ohio State. Yes, get the pitchforks out. We're gonna stick to Ohio State for today. We, as Kyle just pointed out, as the chat pointed out, we're very close to the season, which means we're very, very close to camp. And those first couple weeks of camp, Kyle, are crucially important because that's when the position battles are settled. That's when the depth chart is settled. Then you have to start putting the system in. Then you have to start preparing for those games in September. So the first couple of weeks are crucial. So what time is better than right now to start talking about where the depth chart is and where we think it will be, including, Kyle, some position battle talk.
Yeah, and of course, Jared's favorite position battle to talk about, and probably one of the most critical this year.
The offensive tackles.
Yes, the offensive tackles.
But that's not.
And for Austin, it's the running back position.
For Austin, it's the running back position. Kyle, what's it for you?
For me, it's the offensive line. Yeah, especially the tackles. I agree. I agree with that. It's last year was kind of just pretty set in stone. This year, it's like, all right, we know the interior, but what's the tackles going to look like here? So,
yeah. The correct answer is offensive tackle. The question started, what's your favorite to talk about? And I always love talking about the offensive line. It is my favorite to talk about.
But if we're going to play
this year,
listener favorites here, Jared, the favorite to talk about is the tight end position.
Is that the favorite for the listeners? The tight end position?
Or at least the SloopCast.
We have a returning starter there that might not be like, or do we? I mean, we do. But Kyle, let's start. Let's start with the public. This is where the casuals always want us to start. The quarterback. This is not officially set yet. There was
officially. Yes, officially not set.
Yeah. I think Kyle and I, if you go back and listen to like our pre-camp depth chart preview going into spring camp, Kyle and I were pretty heavily leaning towards McCord. It was his job to lose. Officially through the spring, no one was marked a starter. I had definitely heard through the grapevine on a few occasions that McCord was separating himself, but that was always unofficial talk. That was always insider talk. Then Devin Brown got hurt. Didn't get to see him in the spring game. I think we were all in agreement that essentially Devin Brown was going to have to go and steal the starting position. And unfortunately, it's very hard to do that if you get hurt and you don't play in the spring game. He did get hurt late in camp, so it's not like he missed all of camp.
Mm-hmm.
He did miss the spring game. He did get hurt. If it wasn't solidified, if it wasn't already a hard lean towards Kyle McCord, I think the injury probably solidifies it, even if it solidifies his role as the starter unofficially.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm a betting man right now, Jared, put it on number 6.
Don't realize gamble.
Yeah, put it on number 6 there.
Put it all on number 6, says the guy who's a betting man now, apparently.
It would be kind of cool seeing. It would be kind of cool seeing a number 33 behind center taking snaps, though.
Well, you never know. Maybe Jack Sawyer plays some quarterback this year.
Well, okay. I see what you did there.
Maybe
I see what you did there.
No, but Devin Brown's going to be your backup. I think you will see a 33. I think Devin Brown's not going to he wasn't hurt so bad he's going to miss the season. They're going to want to get him reps here and there. I even if it's like late game blowouts or whatnot, then of course Kyle McCord could get hurt. It happens. It's football. People get hurt. So, I mean, you could, I still think Devin Brown is your solid number 2. I don't think Tristan, is it Jebbia? I believe is how you pronounce his last name. I don't think he's going to be jumping Devin Brown. So I think we'll see Devin Brown take some snaps.
I agree.
At minimum, we see a lot of number 33 handling the ball, handing the ball off this year. It depends on what you mean by a lot. And it also just depends on how Kyle McCord, does Kyle McCord need the reps? They might keep, just, you never know. Devin Brown will do Ohio State thing of throwing 15 passes this season. That feels about right. Many blowouts, all positive vibes. That's fair, Esquire. I mean, we do have running back depth. That we do. And speaking of Kyle, thanks for the transition, Zach. Running backs. There's a whole lot of good running backs on this team, Kyle.
Yeah, there is. There's 5 running backs here that I'd feel comfortable back there, though. Back taking the snaps, though. Now there's a couple that I'd feel great. There's a couple I'd feel great back there, but you got 5 very solid running backs. You'd feel good taking the snaps.
I think you have 4 legitimate starters at running back on the team right now. With all due respect, Chip Trainum, who I like. I think if we were going into the season with him as the starter, I don't feel like we would feel great about that. But as a second or third running back, when in reality he's the 5th running back, I would say, if we're predicting the depth chart, I think that he's fantastic. A live over under with no research. Sure. Go for it.
Get a live over under for number of carries by the 3rd string back for the season. Oh geez, I hope we don't see what we saw last year though.
You only got we talked about this a lot during the off season and the recaps of last season. We haven't seen that many carries by a 3rd string running back in years. Going back to went back to the 80s and was because of injuries.
Yep.
I asked to illustrate the point that I think they roll deep at running back this year. Maybe. I'll say 37.5.
I think that's a good number.
Yeah. If we're talking specifically carries, I'll say under. If we're talking touches, I'll go over, because Evan Pryor, who I think is probably the third running back on the team right now. If you look at the 4 running backs, I think he gets the third most snaps at least, because I think 3 guys get significant snaps. That I agree with. I think that they're going to find a way to put Evan Pryor on the field, despite the fact that he's the third string running back. He might play some slot receiver. He might play some 2-back. He might play some third downs where he's primarily a block pass threat, or a block receive threat rather. Hayden will find the field. If not, well, okay, you guys are like, hey, I want a bunch of the running backs to carry. Gee, I really hope that the third and fourth guy see carries and see the field a lot. But you understand, to do that, you have to take Trevion Henderson off the field. To do that, you have to take Mine Williams off the field. So it's nice to say, I want to see so-and-so on the field, but in doing so, you're taking other guys off the field. It's big boy college football. We don't split snaps evenly here.
Well, we've seen in previous years too, where, well, last year too, especially with all the injuries that Ohio State had at running back, when you had running backs somewhat healthy, you saw a series go to Henderson, and the next one went to Mine Williams. And then that third one, maybe Mine Williams stayed back there for the third series, and all of a sudden you may see the third running back come in too. So I don't know, depending on really how well Pryor does here, we may see something like that too.
Sure. I mean, I think there's an opportunity for Evan Pryor to work his way onto the field. That's absolutely a possibility. I still believe that Trevion Henderson's the best running back on this team. And I know he got hurt last year, and I know that he didn't look like the best running back last year at times due to his injuries that he played through. He played through those injuries, and I think people gave him shit for it because he didn't look like himself. But I think he's the best running back on this team. I think Evan Pryor has the opportunity to steal some of those second string carries away from Mine Williams. I think that will be a very interesting battle to watch. I think so. To me, this depth, if we're talking about the depth chart, if we're talking about the depth chart at running back, I think Henderson's running back number 1, and I don't think that's much of a conversation.
I know a lot of people are talking about that. Henderson had a sophomore year just like J.K. Dobbins did his sophomore year. Wasn't as great as the freshman year.
No.
But then coming back the junior year and just had a hell of a season here.
Right.
Yep.
But I would say, in defense of Trevion Henderson, he was hurt. I don't believe J.K. Dobbins was hurt his sophomore year.
True.
But again, if we're talking about the depth chart, which is what we're doing, I think the more interesting battle here is what happens behind Trevion Henderson. That's what's more interesting here to me. Can Evan Pryor equalize himself with Mine Williams? Because like I see Austin down in the chat, and his name in the Discord currently is Evan Pryor Stan. So maybe take some of his opinions here with a grain of salt. He's down there lobbying hard. Are we projecting the depth chart or saying what we would do? Evan Pryor has the most talent of anyone in the running back room. I think he has the most versatile talent of anyone in the running back room. I think Evan Pryor is the most versatile running back in the running back room right now. That doesn't necessarily mean he's the best carrier of the football. Which again is why I think that we see. You don't know that, Austin. I'm sorry, you don't know that. We've seen Travion do it on the field. We haven't seen Evan Pryor do it on the field yet. Could we? Sure. Again, he will have that opportunity. Don't forget, he's also not a full year off of an ACL.
Yeah, you're right. The depth charts, Hayden, Pryor, Williams, and Trey as your starter.
Week 5. What's this? Week 5, Pryor, Trey. Yeah, no, I don't see. If Travion stays healthy, he's running back 1.
Correct.
That's
all right, Jared. Let's talk about the wide receivers here.
Oh, this is gonna be. God, do you think we're loaded at the running backs, which we are? But damn, the wide receivers. I think you have 2 dedicated starters.
Yep. Your X and slot are pretty much solidified there with Harrison and Ibuka.
Yeah.
And then you look at your Z receiver here, and I think you got to give the nod to Fleming.
Yeah, Fleming will start if Fleming's healthy. Fleming will start.
Yes.
So if we're talking strictly like starter, I think Fleming's pretty solidified.
Yeah.
But I also think Jaden Ballard's going to see a lot of snaps. I think Jaden Ballard will be essentially the team's 4th wide receiver.
Well, let's not rule out the Swiss Army knife.
Xavier Johnson?
Yeah.
Could we see more Emeka Ibuka and Fleming routes with McCord at the helm? I don't know what you mean by Fleming and I mean they're opposites, because essentially Fleming is going to be playing the very deep most of the time. We'll be running the deeper routes, and Emeka Ibuka is going to be running the most shallow routes. X is a feel-good story with room now. He won't play as much as he might in other years, and I love X. I agree. I want nothing but the best for Xavier Johnson, but there's just right now where I have a Xavier Johnson is number 2 behind Emeka Ibuka in the slot, and I have Brandon Ennis right behind him. And Ennis isn't going to sit patiently and wait for his time to come. Ennis is going to go out there and he's going to steal some field time, and it's going to come at the expense of Xavier Johnson. And again, I love Xavier Johnson, and I want to see Xavier Johnson on the field, but do I want to see Xavier Johnson on the field if that means seeing less Brandon Ennis on the field? No, it's not. That's not how I feel. Sorry. You get Xavier more reps at returning. Potentially. Well, we have returners on the list. We'll get to returners at the end of the show. Because right now, if we're doing a 2 deep, at X, I personally have Harrison and Antwi. I have at the Z, I have Fleming, then Ballard. At the Y, I have, for now, Ibuka and Xavier Johnson. Although I say that acknowledging that Ennis is going to end up being the number 2 there before too long in the season. If we're talking week 1, Xavier Johnson's probably your backup in the slot. If we're talking about October, November, it's probably Ennis.
Yeah,
and
I agree. I got nothing to change about that. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking right now as your depth chart for the wide receivers. Now for
2024 starters of Tate, Ballard, and Ennis with backups of Rogers, Smith, and Antwi is going to go crazy. I don't disagree. Yeah, it's the wide receivers are stupid deep right now. It's absolutely stupid deep. Let's see. Yeah, I meant it both ways, and you're right. 2024 group is going to be fucking insane. Yeah, that is insane. Bonkers love it. Yeah, it's just, you're going to lose so much talent out of the wide receiver room this year. And it's, I don't want to say it's not going to hurt, because Marvin Harrison at this point feels like a generational wide receiver talent. So yeah, it'll hurt, but man, it's not going to hurt that bad. it's going to kind of hurt. That's about it.
Yep.
Tight end.
All right. Year of the tight ends.
I have currently Cade Stover, then G. Scott, then Joe Royer as my 3 deep.
Yep.
I think there's the question of how are they going to play as much fullback this year as we've seen last year, and who plays that position? It'll probably be a tight end.
Well, how about this? Depending on how the offensive line does, determines how much fullback we'll see. I think that's what we're ultimately going to happen. If we're starting to see the offensive line struggle more, we'll start seeing Stover or Royer maybe motion back to help block.
I mean, you can block from the tight end position as well, obviously, but don't forget G. Scott is the 4th best fullback in the country per Phil Steele. I saw that. I don't know what Phil Steele is saying there. Either he knows something that apparently none of at least Kyle and I don't know, or my favorite offseason boondoggle thus far. If that's the biggest controversy of the Ohio State offseason, I'll take it.
Yes.
Kyle, yeah, no, we're not talking about Northwestern. We're not talking about Northwestern. But yeah, I think if you look at the tight ends, I think the most fullback looking guy in the room is Cade Stover.
Yes. Yeah. I agreed.
I think that G. Scott and Joe Royer have both been trying to get themselves on the field for a while now. And Thurman is going to be a monster. I don't know if he's a monster yet. I don't know how much of an impact he has this year, but he's going to be a monster at Ohio State.
Yep.
Okay, Kyle. The offensive line.
All right. Well, let's get the easy ones here.
Okay. Donovan Jackson, left guard.
Yep. Matt Jones, your right guard.
Yeah. I don't think it's crazy that Vamahi challenges for that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to say that I don't think that's totally outside the realm of possibilities. Will Matt Jones still have the Flippo the Clown shoes this year? I don't know what that means. Center. Redshirt freshman Carlos Hinsman versus redshirt junior Jacob James. Yeah,
I know we talked about the tackles, like who's going to be the tackles here. Ooh, that's center position though, Jared.
Yeah, and they went out and they got a transfer to come in and challenge at the center position, but I'm still thinking it's Hinsman. Personally, I think it'll be one of the established Buckeyes. My depth chart right now is Hinsman then James, which is a big deal because Hinsman's one of the youngest guys in the room as far as the center. It probably is the youngest guy in the room as far as the centers are concerned. But I do think it's Hinsman. I think he looked good in the spring. We'll see if that translates into fall camp. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Hinsman at center, I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if James wins it. But I do think it's Hinsman.
Yeah. It's, well, I mean, I think we'll go with, I'll go with Hinsman. That will get the nod to start the season here. And I mean, if I'm Ryan Day, I'd let him ride for the season here, unless just absolutely just craps the bed here, and then you have to put in Jacob James. So I think the starter will be Carson at center here. So I mentioned Donovan left guard, right guard we had Matt Jones. So
much inexperience we got a lot, scares me, says Zach.
Yeah. So we got a lot of names that we can put into these tackles here. So let's start with the right tackle here.
You have San Diego State transfer Josh Simmons, who, in my opinion, I think you brought him in specifically to start, but I don't feel like he's a left tackle. I think he is a pretty set in stone right tackle. So I think, to me, that the most sure I am about anything as far as the offensive tackles are concerned is Josh Simmons at right tackle. You would have to move Fryar to left tackle. Fryar's already at left tackle.
Yep, Fryar's going to be. Yeah, I have down my notes here. I got Fryar at left tackle, and yes, Josh Simmons plugging in here for the right tackle here. But definitely keep your eye out for Zen and Tegra to potentially fight over that right tackle position, though. But I think right now the nod's going to go to Josh Simmons.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I there's 4 guys and there's 2 spots, and I do think, as Kyle just said, I do think it's Fryar at left and Simmons at right. I think Zen Mikowski is a future starter for Ohio State. I don't know, but I don't think redshirt sophomore Zen Mikowski is a starter at Ohio State. Redshirt junior Zen Mikowski is a different conversation for a different season. But I don't know if he's the guy you want starting at left tackle right now for Ohio State.
Correct. Yeah.
And Tegra Teshabola is, I think he's a dedicated right tackle. I don't know if the athleticism is there to play left tackle against some speed rushers. I think he's a dedicated right tackle, and I do give the nod to Josh Simmons in that battle.
Fair enough.
All right. Fair enough. I don't know if we said it. I think Ben Chrisman is Donovan Jackson's backup at left guard.
Yep.
All right, Kyle, that is the offense. Let's talk about the defense. Kyle, I think the defense, we have a lot more returning starters on the defense.
Yeah, I honestly think the the defensive line, at least your starting 4, I think is pretty set. Well, maybe there's one position you can give to, but I mean, you got 44 and 33 on the edges there, JT and Jack. And then and
Sawyer will be playing dedicated defensive end this year. They played him a lot at Jack last year. Do not expect to see that as much or maybe even at all this year. He's going to be a straight ahead defensive end this year, which I think is a better fit for him.
And then your defensive tackle here is Tyleek. I think Tyleek is going to be your defensive tackle, nose tackle, and then we could give the edge to Mike Hall.
Yeah,
right now, but I think you'll see Mike Hall and Hamilton get some split reps here. But
it's defensive tackle. There'll always be some split reps. That's just how you do at defensive line in big boy college football. But Mike Hamilton's the guy. With all due respect to Ty Hamilton, Mike Hall is the guy. With all due respect to Ty Hamilton, who I really like, it's just that Mike Hall has like top 10 draft potential, top 15, top 10 draft potential. Like Mike Hall, again, much like what we saw with Travion Henderson, had he been able to stay healthy all year, I think we see a totally different season out of him last year, but he got hurt, got banged up, was not 100% during the second half of last year. You see, and from the defensive tackle position, let's all remember that Tywin Malone, who, if you listen to our recruiting episodes a few years back, was a big loss for Ohio State, has transferred in from Ole Miss. He's back. He's dedicated on football now. One of the reasons why he went to Ole Miss instead of Ohio State is because he was trying to do football and baseball. Well, he's laser focused on football now. He makes the transfer to Ohio State, which I believe I saw an interview that basically said, had it been a purely football decision during his recruitment process, he probably would have picked Ohio State, but wanted to do Ole Miss baseball. So, Tyleek Williams and Tywin Malone, I think you'll see a pretty healthy rotation there. And you look at the defensive ends, there's a lot of talent behind Tui Moluau and Jack Sawyer.
Yeah,
good luck.
Curry.
Yeah, Caden Curry looked like such a beast during his time. He got not a lot of time last year, but during the second half of the year, got some time, and your eyes were drawn to him immediately.
And who had a really good spring here was Kenyatta Jackson too. Yeah. I think Kenyatta's wearing that Bosa number here. So
yeah. And don't count out Amari Abor either. Again, like, I don't know how deep the rotation goes, especially since we didn't see either JT or Sawyer leave the field a lot last year. No. Abor, Jared. No, it's Abor. I've been saying Abor for years. I acknowledge that during the recruitment and all that. It's actually Abor. I have the pronunciation guide from the spring game. It says UH-BORE. This is actually, and I don't blame you, Austin, that was probably the first time I've ever said it correctly. I may have just trained you to think I was right before. Your incorrectness conditioned me. Austin, that's exactly what happened. I conditioned you for such a long time with the wrong pronunciation. Groomed even. Not talking about Northwestern. We're not talking about Northwestern.
All right. Well, let's talk about the linebackers, Jared.
Let's talk about the linebackers. Surprise, surprise. How big of a surprise? I don't know. But both Steele Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg returned this year. I think a lot of people saw Tommy Eichenberg maybe leaving. He doesn't. So we have a bit of a logjam, Kyle, at linebacker right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience, or a lot of upperclassmen in the linebackers right now, but there's a lot of talent behind those though. But yeah, Chambers at your will position, Tommy in the middle or in the Mike position there. But man, I mean, you got I really like Gabe Powers too. Yeah. I don't think we're going to see much Gabe this year, but boy, like next year you give the reins to Gabe Powers at the Mike position.
Yeah.
And then you have Laurinaitis there helping coaching these linebackers this year too.
Not to be discounted.
Yeah, it's looking, the linebacker position's looking good here.
Austin says Powers and Hicks next year. I think you see a decent amount of Hicks this year.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I was just talking about how Jack Sawyer is not going to be playing that Jack position much this year. Well, I think CJ Hicks is who we see in that position a lot this year. And talking, we're talking about Evan Pryor. Sometimes a lot of Buckeye fans have forgotten about Mitchell Melton, who was supposed to be a featured part of last year's defense, but got hurt. I wish we didn't have the Jack position, but yeah. I think it depends upon who it's replacing. I think it depends upon who are you taking off the field to put the Jack on the field, I think is the question.
Yeah. I think the Jack position, I think it's just up in the air right now, because you saw none of that at all at spring. And so I think it's going to be just a big surprise to us when we see it this fall. Is it going to be Melton? Is it going to be Hicks?
It'll be Hicks.
Yeah, I think it'll be Hicks right now, but would not surprise me if you see Melton, just depending on how well Melton does in that position.
So, guys, I think it's the way I see the Jack position and how I think it plays out in the Big Ten specifically is if you're playing a defense that is, or excuse me, an offense that is a more of a power offense, you need a third linebacker, and maybe you take the nickel off the field to bring in that third linebacker. In that situation, that makes a lot of sense to me. Mm-hmm. Where you take off the fifth defensive back and bring in the Jack. That makes a lot of sense to me personally.
Yeah.
Again, what I don't want is for them to take one of the four defensive linemen off the field. To bring the Jack onto the field. That's what I don't want.
Yeah, and I think for how talented and athletic especially the defensive ends are,
and the defensive tackles. Now, this is one of the best two deep. You look at that defensive line group again. JT backed up by Caden Curry, Tyleek and Tywin Malone, both playing defensive tackle. Ty Hamilton backing up Mike Hall at nose tackle. Sawyer backed up by Kenyatta Jackson at the weak side defensive end. If we're talking about a two deep, when was the last time Ohio State had this complete of a two deep at the defensive line? It's actually insane.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. I know. I want to say it's got to be maybe towards the end of one of Urban's years that we've had this much depth on the defensive tackle.
Yeah, I mean, you have four
or defensive line.
Well, but even the defense. I mean, we've had insane depth at defensive end before, but we have four guys who I would feel totally comfortable starting at defensive tackle. like you could start the backup defensive tackles and I wouldn't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible crew of defensive tackles. And I think there's maybe been years in which there were maybe a better, these are the best 4 defensive tackles I think Ohio State's ever had. I think there have been years in which there were maybe 6 defensive tackles who were better than the current 6 defensive tackles. But if we're talking 4 defensive tackles, I don't know if Ohio State's ever had better. But yeah, linebackers, I think Hicks is both your starting jack and also your backup will linebacker behind Steel Chambers. And for what it's worth, you see rotation there as well. I don't think the rotation is exclusive on the defensive line. I do think you'll see Hicks get his snaps in relief of Steel Chambers. It's, situationally. Good luck getting Tommy. I like Gabe Powers a lot. I don't see a whole lot of getting Tommy Eichenberg off the field this year.
All right, let's talk about the secondary, Jared.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident that your starting number 1 cornerback is Denzel Burke.
Yep.
That to me, I think is the most solid. And I'll explain why, because you have Ransom returning, but I'll explain why here in a second. But I think the most confident position I have in the secondary is saying that Denzel Burke is cornerback 1.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Now, DB2, I think you got to give the nod to Hancock here, but Davison he's been really good. He's had a really good
Igbinosun.
Yes, thank you.
I was practicing. Igbinosun.
I know there's a lot of talk about, is it going to be Jordan? Is it going to be Davidson? But I think right now you got to give the nod to Jordan though. But it would not surprise me if you see Davidson have a lot of snaps though.
I think Davison Igbinosun will start over Jordan Hancock. I do think that there'll be rotation there, for the record. I don't think this is like a all or nothing situation where one guy is going to play and the other guy is going to sit the bench. I think there'll be rotation there. But I see the start and the majority of the carries, in my opinion, go to Igbinosun.
All right.
So I think it's Burke and Igbinosun. I think Jordan Hancock is your 3rd cornerback, with Jair Brown being your 4th corner. Safeties are so interesting because it does feel like right now that they are attempting to make the safeties as interchangeable as possible, especially the back safeties, like the nickel back, the adjuster, yada, yada. I don't care. It's a free safety who plays on the wide side of the field, the strong safety who plays to the short side of the field, and then your half safety, half corner nickel back safety. I don't care for your adjusters and whatnot. It's still free safety, strong safety, nickel back to me. I think it's Cam Martinez and Sonny Styles splitting time at nickelback. It's
interesting.
And I say that sort of nodding that if it's a more run centric or tight end centric team, that it might be a little bit more Sonny Styles. And if you're playing more of a spread 3 wide receiver-esque team, it might be a little more Cam Martinez.
Yeah, I got I got Sonny Styles as the backup there for the strong safety, and I have Jahaid Carter backing up Martinez in the nickel back.
Yeah, see, I have it the other way around. I have Jahaid Carter playing strong safety. It's worth noting that it at Syracuse, which is where Jahaid Carter transfers in from, it was Syracuse, right? I suddenly doubted myself on that. He played a lot of different safety positions. He's very versatile. So and by the way, I'm not even saying Kyle's wrong. He might be right. It could be Sonny Styles playing the strong safety and Jahaid Carter playing the nickel back. But when push came to shove and I had to make my depth chart, I'm putting Sonny Styles at nickel and I'm putting Jahaid Carter at strong safety. And then again, these are Jahaid Carter at strong safety, by the way, is the backup. I think Lathan Ransom is your strong safety. I think Carter's your backup safety. And at free safety, I think you have a good old fashioned position battle between Josh Proctor and Kai Stokes. I'm giving Josh Proctor the nod at this time, but
yeah,
gun to my head, I don't know that he wins it. I think Kai Stokes has an excellent opportunity. Second year, time for a big jump forward. I think he has a real opportunity to, even if he doesn't supplant, fifth year, sixth year, Josh Proctor. I still think there's an opportunity to steal reps. Even if he doesn't steal the starting position, I think there's still opportunity to steal reps there.
Yeah, to me, it's Josh Proctor until he loses it.
Yeah,
as much as I think Stokes can come in there and do really well, it's Proctor's position this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel past history. Proctor's another injury guy, and I think that again, there's an alternate history where he stays healthy a lot more and is better for it. Yeah, I mean, you say the same thing about Cody Simon, who we didn't even mention during the linebacker section of this podcast, who I like Cody Simon. I like Cody Simon a lot. Don't say this on the pod, Jared. Okay. It's written up there, right? Okay. But Cody Simon, I think, is a guy who I think there's an alternate history where he is able to stay more healthy and he is, able to develop a lot more, and he is, a completely different player as a result of having more developmental time from not being hurt. And it's unfortunate that that's how his career has played out. And I feel a lot of the same way about Josh Proctor. I think there's an alternate history where these two guys are healthier during the course of their careers and they develop better as a result. But that's not the timeline we're living in, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. That is unfortunately college football. You get a few years to prove yourself. And if you get hurt, especially during those early years where the developmental part of it is happening, it stunts some guys to the point where they don't ever truly recover. Or at least not ever truly fully recover. And that's, again, unfortunate, but reality. Nothing you can really do about that. Injuries are just a part of it. But yeah. All right, Kyle, that's our defense. Special teams. I got Parker Lewis starting at kicker.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Our favorite Aussie, Jesse Mirko at punter.
We got to find another Aussie here soon.
You think he's leaving early?
Well, I mean,
he's only a junior.
Get one for next year to help get a year under his belt.
Kyle, there's only so many scholarships going around. You can't spend 2 of them on punters unless, of course, you gray shirt them, which is a thing that you do sometimes. Yeah. But you can't be spending 2 scholarships on a punter, especially when your first one's. Listen, if you're spending 2 scholarships on a punter, it's because your first punter is not very good.
All right, the most important position here, Jared, or discussion here.
Yeah, for sure. The guys who fair catch. Let's go.
The guys who fair catch.
The designated fair catchers on the team. The kick returners and the punt returners. Designated fair catchers. I got Xavier Johnson and Evan Pryor at kick return. At punt return, I have Emeka Ibuka and Evan Pryor. Love to see Innes get involved. Sure. Xavier Johnson will get Kyle his touchdown, his return touchdown. Maybe. I think Evan Pryor would be more likely. Or Emeka Ibuka. But Xavier Johnson's also a good option. And also, like, if you're just like trying to get that senior on the field, then I think it's a good spot to do it for Xavier. The moment we get a punt return touchdown, I'm sending Kyle beer money. Like, a punt return's great, but it's the kick return he's really jonesing for. It's either, to be honest. And in college football nowadays, like, how likely is it that you're actually going to return a kickoff too? Just with how many times it's just kicked out of bounds or whatever. Kyle, we're the only team that kicks them out of bounds.
You're more likely to get a punt return touchdown than a kick return in college football these days.
100%. I don't know why on kick return everyone doesn't just kick it as high as they can and have it land literally anywhere on the field. Ohio State on the field, and have it just land anywhere, behind the 15-yard line on the field. You just kick it up really high up in the air. The dudes are just going to be like, oh, I better fair catch this because they're going to be real close to me. Duncan, are you seriously sending a voice message in the... I'm not going to click that. I'm not going to click that, Duncan. I don't even know. The audio routing on my computer is so weird at this point that I'm not even 100% sure that would end up in the podcast if I did click it. Fuck, I'm driving. Well, stop typing! This episode is off the rails. Listen, we were talking about kick returners and punt returners. Of course, it's off the rails. Also, we're like 50 plus minutes in. It's fine to go off the rails at this point.
I think he has his turn signal on.
Wait a minute. Did you listen to it?
Yes.
So you're saying it was an accidental voice message?
I think so.
That is so much better.
Hey, I'm proud of you for using your turn signal. I really am.
We now know Duncan's a good guy because he actually uses his turn signal.
Yes. Duncan, the good guy.
Duncan from The Good Guy. All right.
But yeah, Emeka, it's got to be a wide receiver here, as it typically has been for punt return. So yeah, your sure catcher, Emeka, put back there. Yep.
Pryor.
But yeah, I would love to see Pryor back there with Xavier in the kickoff return.
Jaden Ballard, I think, is also a good option, Zach.
Yep, Ballard's a good one too. Yeah. For either one, kick return or punt return.
EE was a starter last year and was back there a lot. He was back there a lot, especially when it was time to, like, when it was going to be an obvious fair catch. No, you're not on scholarship, Zach. I don't think you're going to make the travel squad, buddy. I hate to break it to you. I don't think you're going to make the travel squad.
All right, Jared, that is our depth chart projection for July.
Pre-camp depth chart projections. Everyone, we'd love to get in the ramp up to the season. If you were Patreon,
4 weeks away from fall camp starting.
Kyle. I was trying to launch into the Patreon pitch to end the show.
Okay.
And we discussed
we got 4 more weeks.
We discussed how long it was at the beginning of the show already.
Well, that was for kickoff. We're talking about before fall camp starts.
Jared, leave Kyle alone, you ass. Trying to end the episode. Patreon.thesloopcast.com for as little as $3 a month. I was already transitioning. He didn't have to start a new transition. I was already doing it. Duncan's home. Everyone, Duncan made it home safe. Everyone call Duncan's mom and let them know that Duncan made it home safe. Donate $3 to raise money for us to what? No, you don't get to do that or even know where I live. If Ohio State runs a kickback, it's because they will be in a losing situation and need a miracle. Honestly, at this point, I think the most likely opportunity to return a kick for a touchdown is on an onside. Also, give Kyle $3. Yes, give Kyle $3 by giving the Patreon $6. It's actually more like $6 and a few cents because Patreon gets a cut too. So let's just make it $7. Everyone, I challenge you to give $7 at Jared. You can make a pledge to give the next $3 to the Patreon directly to Kyle. Yes, and I will do that if the person pledges at least $7. I will make sure that 3 of it ends up in Kyle's hands. I promise you this. Give $7 to beat Rutgers. Well, what better way could I say it? Guys, it's $3 a month. You can pay for an entire year up front. It ends up being like $32.50 or something like that because you get a discount if you do 12 months up front. So I would kindly request that if you listen to this show, if you watch this show, and if we provide entertainment, and if you want us to be able to do our normal off-season, or rather on-season production of like 4 episodes a week, then I would super duper greatly appreciate you joining us over at patreon.thesloopcast.com. And if you're just like, Jared, I'm not going to, just can't do the money thing right now. Well, then just come hang out with us in the Discord. Just come hang out in the Discord. That's free. There are premium sections of it, but it's still, the most of it is free. So you can still come here, join the conversation. And that's about it, I suppose. So, Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's corner? We're already over an hour, by the way. So.
I know. I'm going to rapid fire this. So Ohio State got a commit to Miles Lockhart from Arizona, a 4-star corner, 4-star cornerback. Yep. 4-star cornerback coming to Ohio State.
Jared is super cool when you get fired and have to stop donating for a while. Yeah. I never took Duncan's rights away from him. And then he was just like, Jared, I got a new job. Here's your $3 back. I was like, cool, Duncan. I appreciate you.
EJ Liddell signing a 3-year deal with the Pelicans. So EJ sticking around in the NBA here.
No, Duncan, I appreciate you.
Good to see him do that, especially after his injury last year. So hopefully hope for the best there. And a Buckeye favorite here, Mike Conley Jr., now a 4-time NBA Sportsmanship Award.
There you go. He offered the same to me. He's still a prick, though. Listen, sometimes the jobs go away, and that's okay. Especially with Duncan or Austin, who've been Patreons for a long time. There's always a bit of grace, a little understanding involved there. Communication is always appreciated. It's just like, hey, Jared, here's my situation. Like, cool, pause it for a few weeks or a few months or whatever it takes till you get back up on your feet. You know, it's a communication that matters. And it's the fact that both of you were and are longtime supporters of the show. It's like, so what? We'll pause it for a couple weeks. It's no big deal. Pause it for a couple months. It's no big deal. We're not a ruthless organization over here. We operate first on compassion. And in return for that compassion, I get called an asshole and a prick. But that's just what we do around here. All right.
That's it, Jared. That's all I got.
You correct, Austin. I'm not a menace. Jared will be pausing. Jared, I will be pausing from you. Give all your money to Kyle. You're going to have to find out what Kyle's PayPal, his personal PayPal information is to do that. Because listen, y'all give the money to Patreon. The Patreon gives money to me. I determine how much Kyle gets. It's half. It's always half. And that's our agreement. But I could lie to him. Never forget that I could always lie. Kyle, do you accept Bitcoin Cash? Kyle, do you have a crypto wallet?
I do not.
Okay. Kyle does not have a crypto wallet. Sorry about that. Kyle, do you accept blood money?
Depends.
You know what? We're not asking a follow-up to that. Tonight's ending music is a Columbus based band called Harbour. You can check the link. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can check the show notes. There'll be a link to the song there. If you're listening to this on the podcast version, then just keep listening. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, of course, support local podcasters. Once again, this is Harbour.